Hello and welcome to the program. I am Suren. Complaining about yesterday will not make tomorrow any better. Amy Reese Anderson quotes in an article of a few years ago, "Spending today complaining about yesterday won't make tomorrow better." The author is unknown. She writes, "Alas, nothing in life always goes perfect for anyone, which of course means that we can always find plenty of things to complain about. It is certain that most of us could fill out our days just complaining and talking against things that have gone wrong. Just think about it. We could complain about anything and everything, starting from the weather, not having enough time for anything, not getting paid enough in the office, not liking the person, not getting the right job. And the list never ends. Just think about it. If we were asked to create a list of solutions which might change an undesirable condition to something better, the word complain would never qualify as one of them. When, however, asking why, we may get a response as because it will never make any condition or situation better. In reality, the complaining results in its focusing only tensions and negativity, and then spreading that negativity or bitter feeling to anyone within those complaints. It truly drains our energies and our will to actually get up and fix what is wrong. The answer should really be that we become the victim of one self-centered pity. And if we complain enough, we may find ourselves at a pity party of someone, because nobody enjoys being around a complainer. Do you agree? Complaining will not change what had happened. So why do it? Nobody can change what has happened yesterday, because it has already happened. And we are left to do only this. That is, to deal with the consequences. Whatever had happened, and if we made the mistake, somehow causing a problem, there is really only one thing we can do. That is to make it better. We can all be up to it or do our best to fix it when possible, or learn from it, implementing the necessary changes to prevent it from reoccurring or rehappening, and then move forward. Then, what is the most we can do? And when things go wrong due to no fault of our own, all we can do is accept the way things are, while hopefully learning from the experience and move forward, believing that better things will happen. What we should not do is just complain. You see, complaining wastes our time. It does not make us feel any better. It causes us only to dwell in the past, which is gone and buried. We really need to prevent ourselves from being unable to move forward. I'm sure you're familiar with Maya Angelou, who has once wrote, "What you are supposed to do when you don't like the thing is to change it. If you cannot change it, change the way you think about it. Don't complain." An important distinction to be made here is the difference between complaining and suggesting ideas, which one could start with something like, "We should have done," or it comes off as a complaint. However, a better way to phrase it would be to say, "I think what we learned is that the next time we have this situation, we will try." You see, the first phrase was dwelling on the past, whereas the second phrase is looking forward to the future, which is better. Is it not amazing how a simple change of wording can make all the difference in the message being relieved? At the end of the day, what we will all want is, yes, you know it, to be happy. Randy Pausch describes it perfectly well when he writes, "If you took 1/10 of the energy you put into complaining and applied it to solving a problem, you would be surprised by how well things can work out." He has a point. The truth is that the complaining does not work as a strategy. It has been said before by many others. We all have finite time and energy. I'm sure we all agree with that. Any time we spend whining is unlikely to help us achieve our goals, and it will not make us happier. What will make us happy, on the other hand, is feeling grateful for the lessons we have learned from the past, while staying firmly focused on moving ourselves forward into the future. Having that attitude, more than anything else, will give us our best tomorrows. Slack Mac, the author, answers several questions. One of which is there a survival benefit to blaming others? And it's a very good question. At first glance, it would appear as yes. But I'm afraid the answer, at least in my usage I know of, says the author, probably even in most cases, is no. Let us explore that for a bit so that you too can understand. In my job, he writes, I practice the old Russian form of leadership, in which I occupy my position and am happy with it. When a promotion comes up, I kind of push someone into that slot. But I am very careful which person I push into that slot. I want a person that can almost handle the job, but not quite. I do this so that I don't have to worry about some up-and-coming kid pushing me out of my grave job, because the people I have put into those positions can almost, but not quite, handle the job. So, they have to defer to make decisions when something comes up that they are not equipped to handle. They have to ask for my help. This makes me as valuable to them as they are to me, because I am what allows them to maintain a job that they really cannot handle. I learned this tactic by studying history. The old USSR was rife with it. Quite a good point. In summary, while blaming other individuals, I alleviate a temporary problem, depending on the person blamed for, any temperament of that individual. It may be the fastest path to destruction that they have possibly could have taken. Some time ago, I read in Psychology Today, and this magazine covers the content which is connected to the workings of the mind and body, wherein I read an article on the psychology of complaining. This is where the fully appreciated author writes that he wanted to write all about it. This was noted not how much of this complaint, but how much he himself complained about things. In fact, we all do tend to complain. And in his theory and his philosophy about people's rights, he further explained that no complaining is in the commonplace. It is generally viewed negatively. No one wants to be labeled as a complainer. Certainly I don't. Neither you would, I'm pretty sure. It is also unlikely that anyone who seeks complainers as their companions. Then it is being asked, why is it then so prevalent? Good question. Why do we communicate in the first place? He says the reasons people communicate needs to be explored. First, to see how they relate. He explains there about his student's question. Obviously, in this regard, and in his own opinion, speaking serves only a purpose: communicating information or instruction, connecting with others, and reinforcing one's own ego. Communicating information is a commonplace in our societies and needs a little explanation. It encompasses things like, for example, as he writes, can you put it over here? And what time will you be home? We all tend to complain about things which interests only us and those people who share our points. However, some other people also commiserate over the things that upset them. And so, complaining can open the door for this purpose. When others recognize your opinion expressed by complaining, listen to this, they validate your experience, and this feels good momentarily. Agree? Carl Rogers, a humanistic theorist, believed that feeling listened to was a powerful emotion. I think I could only agree that the words we use which truly reinforce one's ego, and much of what we do, in fact, reinforces a sense of self. This becomes more evident in talking about or even judging others, and in fact helps us also gossiping. People often seek to make themselves feel better, or, more importantly, by downward comparisons or comparing themselves to others, feel the shift to be worse off somehow. For instance, when you judge decisions of a government or a political party as ridiculous, you feel smarter or even more honest, and perhaps as if creating the policies by yourself. It is a human thing to judge naturally. In fact, in the evolutionary theory, as we read, we discover that we needed to make quick decisions about whether others were with us or against us. Remember? Everyone reinforces their ego at times. We might even see that much of the complaining about others is certainly one that seems opposed to true self-actualization. Think about it. Although given it is a negative motivation, it feels good and really perseveres, according to this author. So it seems that there are several positive outcomes about complaining. They may foster a sense of validation in the individual self, and it can bring a sense of connectedness between individuals. It may also make one feel better at times. We all know and experience that letting out a negative experience can make one feel better than keeping it in. Now, venting it out can make people feel better, believe it or not. However, sometimes hearing oneself vent permits the speaker to hear himself or herself as the author remarks. And it is to realize maybe the complaint is not that big a deal. Just venting alone encourages the external perspective, indicating that what one is complaining about need not bother oneself again, for sure. Complaining reinforces ego at the expense of others, and as opposed to collecting people, complaining may drive people apart also. When someone is viewed as a chronic complainer, other people may not engage with them any longer. No one really wants to be around someone who complains all the time. People want to be around balanced, moderate people. If somebody is too bitter, or for that matter, too happy, one does tend to avoid them. What are the reasons the people complain is that perhaps their brain is negatively biased. It's a possibility. It's a subject later in the future. Let us now also consider that the human brain is geared for survival. And so, focusing on negatives may appear as threatening, then more on positives. So what to do? The brain perceives negatives as an approximated ratio to 5-to-1. Simply put, more you complain about, then what you have is to be grateful for. That can happen. This may lead to less general happiness. What about not complaining at all? Maybe it sounds very natural for humans to focus on the negative. Stopping all complaints is not healthy, because venting permits us to release the pent-up emotions, and it is used to connect to others. The only solution can one see is to balance what one discusses and uses when communicating effectively. As with everything else, this begins with mindfulness on what the goal is. Now, we might ask, do we need to be aware of the body language of those around us? Do we need to complain to get a feedback? And are negative emotions or hearing one's self complain to realize if it is good or bad? Are we in need of such? Or is it an unconscious conditioning? I will say that William Barry, the psychotherapist, is absolutely correct all along when pointing out these important considerations. We'll talk some more by our next episode. Until then, be happy. Keep smiling. Thank you.